Story 1. A house, naturally. Or maybe a condo, so I don't have to deal with the maintenance stuff on my own. Something to get me out of the cycle of renting. Once that's squared away, the LEGO Ultimate Collector Series Millennium Falcon. Story 2. Nice shoes. I don't mean whatever popular brand of shoes is out there. I mean custom-made and fitted shoes. Nothing that really stands out, but shoes that feel natural and, well, like they were made for my feet. It's about the only way anybody would know if I did hit the jackpot. Nothing else would change for a long while, but if you were to look at my shoes. Story 3. Very first thing? A really nice steak dinner at a real, actual sit-down restaurant. So nice that it takes an uncomfortable amount of time for the food to actually get to you. Story 4. I am a simple man. I would buy good food for the first time in months. Then, I would buy new clothes for the first time in 3 years. Tough times. I don't even know what I would buy after that. Maybe I would donate some of the money if I earned enough. Story 5. In terms of I don't need this, but I'm rich now, so why not type purchase a Maltese Falcon? Just like it's described in the novel and movie, which means a solid gold statuette of a falcon, encrusted all over with precious jewels, and then covered in black lacquer to mask its value to the unknowing. And I would have it made in Malta. Story 6. Well, the first thing is to establish it so I never lose it. Lawyer, accountants, etc. Change my phone number and temporarily move. Then I would go to my old high school and I would meet with relevant parties and I would ask what a dream situation would be for the theater and music departments. If money didn't matter, what would the setup be? A new auditorium with all the bells and whistles. An eternal budget, the likes of what McKinley had in Glee. Scholarships. Funding for every state competition, national event, parade, uniforms, costumes, you name it. I played some sports, but I was more into the arts. When the football team traveled, they had a chartered coach bus and a free steak feed when they arrived. Our choir had to hold a spaghetti feed and a car wash to go to a competition. I would make sure they never had to do that again. Story 7. I would take my best friend to Europe. We know he is not going to live too much longer, so I would like to be able to take him to see some places he has always wanted to visit. Story 8. I would buy a really big piece of land and build a tiny town like the old days with a saloon and general store, except all the homes are modern. Every house would have a family member or friend as my neighbors. Story 9. This is quite sad. Camera. Okay, I have won the lottery, so a nice one. I have family photos that bring so much joy. I will not be here long, so a snap or two would be nice. Story 10. As someone who has written on the side before, I wrote a screenplay for fun that my friends seemed to enjoy, and I would probably spend a reasonable amount to make it. Maybe try to find a way to distribute it that makes sense, etc. Story 11. Daily or as close to daily massages as I can work into my schedule. 2-hour massages at that. The thought of this actually keeps me going some days. I've fantasized about the lazy, pure selfishness of this, to be honest. Story 12. A brand new lower mid-range car. I've never bought a new car or had one on a plan. It's always been second-hand and cheap to run. Would be nice to have something shiny and new just the one time. Story 13. A house for my wife and myself. A house for my little girl. That's hers after she graduates from college. High-performing stocks in my mother's, wife's, and daughter's name so that they have recurring dividends in case something happens to me. A nice Rolex and a Patek Philippe for me, because I am finally allowed something nice for myself. Story 14. Get my girlfriend's mom a house in Oklahoma. She's in her early 60s and works a factory job with no savings. Getting her a home and some properties she can lease to make income would be the dream. She's a pretty nice lady and cares about me, which she doesn't have to. It's kind of nice considering my mom is deceased. Story 15. A Jaguar E-Type converted into a hearse like in the film Harold and Maude, and as an electric vehicle, of course. Apart from that, I have no special requirements. But this vehicle from the film appealed to me. Story 16. I would build a giant training facility for the children in my town to wrestle in. It's difficult when more than 200 children depend on you for training, and no one wants to rent to you for under $4,000 a month. Story 17. A new computer. I miss having the option to do whatever I want. I have been daydreaming for over 10 years now about it. My current computer is a collection of old parts, a 12-year-old i3 with an R9 280. I just found an i7 to make it a few percent faster, yay. Story 18, solar roof. Not panels, but integrated solar shingles that look like a fancy roof. And probably some battery backup. Story 19, one of those weird Dyson bladeless fans. No idea why that is the first thing to come to my mind, but I find them pretty neat. My second, slightly better thought-out thing would be a medium-sized, custom home out of the way in some scenic area that is still not too far from the amenities of society, with fiber optic internet and a cell tower nearby. Story 20. That fancy $20,000 to $30,000 fancy two-level suite on the newest Disney cruise ship for a week or more, plus all the fancy outings and other perks that come with that, and first-class airline tickets to get there. Probably add a good week or so trip to Disney World and all the fancy hotel accommodations, fast lanes, and park escorts that cost like $500 per hour, but they skip you all around. Story 21. A house in a good neighborhood in a nice town tired of living in a low-income city. A nice two-story with a big backyard, put a deck in, get a jacuzzi with a garage for me to build stuff in. Just a nice place to relax, my own space. Story 22. A bunch of houses that I would put into a land trust where you had to sell the house back to the trust when you wanted to move. It would give loans for prospective homeowners at low rates, and prices would be capped to inflation, so as people moved out, new people could move into affordable housing. Story 23. A painting. An original, at least 100 years old or otherwise notable like Ernie Barnes. And then I would loan it to a museum permanently, on the condition that, apart from cleaning, it was always on display for the public. Story 24. It would probably be a brand new car, then a house. The house would be first, but I could walk to a dealership to get a car that day. I think getting a house would take a little more time, but just for the fun of it, I would get an above-ground pool and then fill it with Orbeez and water just to see what that is like. Story 25. A taxi ride to the office of the lottery company to sign whatever it takes to collect my winnings and hopefully talk to someone on how not to mess it all up. An hour car ride instead of 4 hours via bus and train. Story 26. Not the first thing, but a supply of nice white socks. They always get dirty and look icky over time. With lottery money, I'd wear each pair maybe 3 to 4 times, then grab a new pair. A complete waste of money, but I'd always have nice, clean white socks. Story 27. Aside from the obvious, like a house, I'd buy the lowest mileage 2009 V8 4Runner I can find for sale in the country. They're obviously expensive for being nearly 20 years old, but it's very much a they don't make them like they used to situation. Story 28. Probably another night with your mom and sister, assuming you're who I think you are. If not, then I'd start with a double bacon cheeseburger with chili fries and apologize for the above. Story 29. Bill Gates mentioned in an interview that I watched once, his because I can purchase was an airplane. He said no one needs their own airplane, but he bought one for himself anyway. Maybe I would do the same thing with my lottery winnings after the mansions and sports cars. Story 30. It is one of the things I told myself I would buy lots of when I grow up. Sure, I can afford it now, but it is still an indulgence that I cannot quite justify yet. Story 31. Gazoo Racing Corolla. It would be my first new car and first hot car. I don't need to jump straight into something crazy. I've never had a car with much over 200 horsepower. I think it would be a great first enthusiast car. Story 32. A G-Wagon for my significant other. I don't get the appeal of it, but she loves it and I promised her. Personally, I would get a nice Lexus for myself. I would also buy some aircraft and fly them around with her. 1 single-engine seaplane, 1 single-engine turboprop, 1 twin turboprop, and 1 twin-engine turbine helicopter. Flying is what we live for. I personally love being in the air every day. Story 33. Purchase Disney, divested of Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars, and then burn Disney to the ground. End the reign of the evil mouse. But it would have to be a really large lottery win to achieve this. Story 34. I'd buy the rights to franchise a chain restaurant and open a few locations to bring cheap food, accessible jobs, and a boosted economy to the area while also gaining passive income for myself. Story 35. A home, preferably a house, but a condominium would do fine as well. I am middle-aged and I finally make good money, but not enough for the always inflating housing market. Story 36. Just like almost 83% of the people here, I'm headed to the heavy equipment sales yard to get a nice front-end loader backhoe like a Caterpillar 432. Side shift all the way. Buddy, just the thing when one of my pesky neighbors blocks my driveway. Just pop over to their house late at night and dump a few loads in front of their garage door. No one will suspect. Story 37. I won't buy anything just because I can, even if I win the lottery. I would still buy only what I need. And what I need is an already established and big animation studio, like Toei or Rainbow SRL. That has to be a really big jackpot, though. Story 38. A really expensive law firm on retainer. Then, whenever some company messes with me, we're gonna have some fun with them. Any injustice or something that annoys me, the lads from legal are paying them a visit. Story 39. Honestly, new ATVs, all-terrain vehicles. For me and the wife. We've wanted to start ATV camping for years, but I've been obsessing over new versus used, and I've reached paralysis by analysis. Story 40. A 2003 Saab 9-5 Aero with less than 50,000 miles on it, would trim interior, leather seats, and blue exterior. It was one of my favorite cars of my youth, and I'd love to own one again. They are expensive to repair, so it's a good thing I have a few million in the bank. Story 41. I drove a '99 Toyota 4Runner for years before it had a repair I couldn't afford to fix, and gave it up. It was almost at 250,000 miles and was in otherwise good condition. I would find another just like it and buy it for however much the owner is willing to sell it for. I got through the end of high school, college, and the births of my 2 kids with it, and I miss it every day. Story 42. Aside from the house, I'd track 2 bases I'd really want. One of the original Mark Hoppus bases to fulfill my 14-year-old dream from almost 20 years ago, and then a Billy Sheehan attitude base. Story 43. Depends on how large the lottery I won was. Let's say it's one of the big $100 million plus payouts. I'm buying a few acres and building a $200,000 house on it. And I would buy a numbers matching 67 Shelby Cobra to put in my garage that would easily be worth 10 times my house. Story 44, a house and then one of those cat running wheels. I haven't bought the wheel because they're expensive, and I don't know if she would enjoy it. I haven't bought the house because I'm very poor,